Hi, geeks. We're going to do another review of a bookstore buy. This is the Mind's Eye Tarot by Olivia Rose. Out of the gate, I can tell you, I think the deck is beautiful. It does not feel like a deck that will come into regular rotation for me. And I feel like I don't know why. But again, I looked at this the other day when I wasn't in a great mood, so my feelings about it were definitely colored by that, so we'll see if I feel differently today. It's US Games, which I think says a lot right out of the gate. And it's got sort of a fantasy vibe, which I think is one way US Games is kind of exempting themselves from whatever conversation we're having about tarot publishing right now. It's got a beautifully designed packaging. They really can do that sometimes. It's a full-color book. Not a lot of text in the book, but definitely, beautiful production quality. The deck itself is beautifully produced, too. It's a gilded deck, which I feel like we don't see a lot from mass market, although US Games does do it on sometimes. It's linen, but I would imagine, and I don't have it, but I think it's the new cardstock that the Golden Tarot is in. So it's linen, but it's a subtle linen. But it's still very slippery to me, which is my problem with linen cardstock. But again, that's just me. Really subtle backs. I quite like the backs. Let's get zoomed in here. So some things right off the bat. It is sort of a fantasy world, which is very cool. I mean, I think the art style is nice. I think some people may find some textures a little off-putting, but I mean, there's a real sort of style to the cards, which I think is really nice. There's always these sort of eyes showing up here, and it's called the Mind's Eye Tarot, so that makes sense. There's not really any that I can remember, which is a weird thing to say because these aren't quite human figures. There's nothing or no one sort of male presenting that I recall, which I think may have been another reason why I sort of felt like, oh. But you can see, like, a lot of the figures have this kind of wood grain on their skin, which is a little off-putting to me, but not a deal breaker. I think the thing that I don't like about this deck is I guess I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's less about the deck. And again, to just go back to my video about Tarot of the Vampires, it's like, I'm clearly not the target market for tarot publishers anymore, I guess is the way to say it. And I feel like the target market isn't anyone whose life is connected to or invested in divination. And I guess if that were, I do like this Wheel of Fortune. It actually reminds me a little of the Marielle a bit, which is a deck that I actually cannot read with. I have tried. I actually like the art. I find it insanely distracting. I can never get a clear reading with that deck. And I can pretty much read with anything. And that's not a brag. It's just a thing. I love this deck. Again, so beautiful. Where was I? I don't know. I guess there's a substance or... And again, it's more about the publishing industry. I think that's beautiful, too. I don't know. I like this more that I'm looking at it again than I did the first day I saw it. I do not see it becoming a regular reader. It's fair. It's Waite Smith. Pretty through and through. And I think this, to me, is just a matter of taste. Like, I think ultimately, like, if you enjoy this art, this is a deck that you might like and want to read with. I like it. I don't think I like it enough for it to take a place in my regular rotation, if that makes sense. So there's nothing wrong with it, per se. I love the darkness of the cards. I'm not opposed to sort of fantasy images or sort of non-human entities in the cards. I don't find it creepy, although I can certainly see someone might. It just doesn't, I don't think, again, it's not singing to me in the way I kind of hoped it would when I saw it in the bookstore. But there, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just a matter of taste. And I don't think it's a matter of good taste or bad taste. I think it's, do you enjoy this? Is this attractive to you? Is it pulling you toward it? If so, I think go for it. And that's kind of the thing. It's like there's nothing. It's just not singing to me, particularly. But there's nothing problematic where I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. The other thing I guess I should say is, like, decks to me rarely have personalities. I don't get different readings from, the Fifth Spirit than I do from, I don't know, I'm looking at my shelves to think of another, like the Relative Tarot, or, I don't get different vibes from the Silver Acorn than the Light Seers. Like, the cards are the cards. The art is the art. It's a style. It's a part of the card. But to me, I read, starting from something other than the image most of the time. So the cards are just an artistic choice, something I feel drawn to on that particular day. What do I feel like looking at, honestly? I never ask my clients to choose a deck. When I read in public, I usually only bring 2 decks with me, and I just kind of go back and forth between them, unless, a certain deck is having a particular moment. Like the Estrella Tarot, every time I bring that deck, I end up using that one principally, and everybody comments on it. The Fifth Spirit's another one like that. But it doesn't really have anything to do with, I use this deck for romance readings, I use this deck for past life work. Like, I know a lot of readers do that. I just don't. It's just not a thing, I can use any deck for any situation. It just has a lot to do with what mood I'm in and what I feel like looking at and what seems to want to chat with me that day. One of the decks that I talk about a lot, one of my go-tos is the Japaridza. It's not a deck, weirdly, that aesthetically I love. Like, I love the deck. It's a really good reader. And I wonder if it was even meant to be. I don't know. But it is a deck that I reach for all the time. I really don't like the backs. There's a couple of choices that I really don't like. But it just works for me. And but I don't get different readings from it than I do from, like, this thing that I just got the other day, the Soul Sparkle, which I did a video about. You know what I mean? Like, they read the same to me. So I guess that's another reason why, like, the aesthetic choices of a deck are really just a matter of, like, do they sing to me or not? And I've also found that, like, I'll buy a deck and sort of not connect with it, and then years will go by, and I'll see it on the shelf and say, oh, what's that? And then I pull it off the shelf, and I'm like, ooh, I really like that. Lonely Dreamer was one of those. I can't remember the name of it. It's a purple back. Can I see it from here? Ouch. I can't see it from here. Anyway, it was another deck that I didn't really think much about and then loved one night when I opened it and looked at it. So, decks can do that too. I'll suddenly have, like, a moment with a deck. So you never know, But right now, this isn't like, oh my god, thank god this deck is out in the world. I think it's beautiful art. I love the richness. I love the fact that it has dark backgrounds. I love that. I love the way colors pop against a dark background. Like, I think that is so beautiful. And it's such an example of how color and light work in art. You need darks to see the lights. And so having such powerful contrasts, I think, can be absolutely stunning. And I think artistically this is stunning. I also feel like it, could be an Oracle deck just as easily, And again, it's not a criticism of it. It's just sort of my feelings about it. This does shuffle really nicely, I have to say. So this is sort of less slippy less kind of uncomfortable for me to shuffle than most linen. That I really appreciate. And this is the first time I'm shuffling it, so that's so I have looked at it already, but and looked through the book. But it does shuffle quite nice. I will lay out some cards. I actually really like the way it shuffles. It's kind of a really enjoyable shuffle. So to that, I say bravo. I don't shuffle very well, but let's just lay some out and see how they look. Eight of Cups. I do love that Death card. I mean, where the last deck I reviewed was the Tarot, was the Mystical Forest, and I felt like that was a very summery deck. This actually is giving very late autumn into winter. So, maybe when I come back to it, or if I come back to it at that time, I'll have kind of a different feeling about it. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. So it's not like this deck is a failure or that I don't like it. It's just not like, oh my god, this is the deck I've been waiting for. And I've had so many experiences this year with decks that even ones I wasn't expecting to like, I really did. And then, when something comes along that's kind of less wowing, you're like, oh, okay. But I do think it's beautiful. So probably not a go-to for me, but who knows? I'm going to hang on to it and see, oh, I didn't gather up yet, because I'm still shooting. So the Mind's Eye book, really beautifully designed. Again, it's very Little White Bookish. On the one hand, I love the publishing quality of it. On the other hand, I sort of feel like this wasn't a cheap deck by mass market standards, and it really didn't need, I don't think, this kind of quality in a book. The packaging, I will say, is primo. It's probably as good a tarot mass market package as I've seen. Like, this inner insert is very stable. It's not chintzy. The box is nice. The book's production, the cardstock is really nice. There's a lot to recommend it. So and I guess my feeling isn't sort of negative, it's more ambivalence, which is just a taste thing ultimately. So anyway, I hope that was interesting. Take care, be good, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.